All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our lesson that's going to start our next unit we're going to be talking about, which involves the brain and the body. And for our first lesson today, we have the basics of the nervous system. So our objectives and standards to identify the basic parts of the neuron and analyze the functions of different nervous systems. And if you would, just take a quick look at those standards. Okay, we do have a couple of vocab words. The central nervous system includes the brain and the spinal cord. We have the spinal cord, which are the nerves that run up and down the length of the back and transmit most of the messages between the body and the brain. We have the peripheral nervous system, or the PNS, and these are the nerves that branch beyond the spinal cord and into the body. And we'll take a closer look at that a little bit. And then the neuron are long, thin cells of nerve tissue, along with the messages that travel to and from the brain. More vocab here. The synapse is the gap that exists between individual nerve cells. Neurotransmitters are chemicals released by neurons that determine the rate at which other neurons fire. And the somatic nervous system is the SNS, is part of the peripheral nervous system that controls voluntary movement of skeletal muscles. And the autonomic nervous system, or the ANS, is part of the peripheral nervous system as well that controls internal biological functions. So just so you take a quick second to think about this, why does our body react the way it does to certain things? When we're cold, we're hot, scared, or sad, why does our body react certain ways? And we're going to look at how and why that happens in this unit. So how does the brain control how our body reacts? That's our essential question. Okay, so the working of the nervous system. Never at rest, the nervous system is responsible for regulating the functions of the body. It controls movements, thinking, behavior, and also emotions. Now, typically, the nervous system is structurally divided into two different parts. The central nervous system, or the CNS, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord, and then the peripheral nervous system, or the PNS, which again includes smaller branches that reach out to other parts of the body. And here's hopefully a good image for you to look at here. So you can see it's kind of flashing there. We have the central nervous system, which includes the spinal cord in the bright blue blinking, and then we have the peripheral nervous system, which is the purple, which you can see these are all different types of nerves that reach out other parts of the body. So nerves involved in the peripheral nervous system conduct information for organs in the body to the central nervous system, things like the stomach, maybe your muscles, your kidney function, and things like that, other things like that. Now, parts of the peripheral nervous system can be as thick as a pencil, or they can be almost practically invisible, such as we have nerves in our fingertips. So we know when we touch something hot or cold, we know, oh, that's hot, oh, that's cold. And those are the nerves. Those are part of your peripheral nervous system. That's what makes, or, oh, that's sharp and that hurts, or, hey, that's soft. So that's what, those types of things, those are the nerves in your fingers that you know that. The nervous system is also protected in different ways. For the brain, we know that we have the skull, and there's also several layers of sheathing which protect our brain. The spinal cord is our vertebrae. So your spinal cord has bone, right, around it, and your vertebrae around it that protects these nerves. And I just want to put on that protection for the spinal cord is important, obviously, because damage could cause paralysis. So this is sometimes when we see the spinal cord, when somebody has a broken spinal cord or damage to their spinal cord, this can cause paralysis. And then even the peripheral nerves also have sheathing as well to protect them. So what is the importance of neurons? Messages that travel to and from the brain are sent along the nerves of strings of long, thin cells called neurons. And there's a clip art picture for you down there that gives you an idea what they kind of look like. They send chemical electrical signals down the neuron, possibly hundreds of times a minute. I mean, if you think it, when I was making this today, I was thinking about that myself personally, thinking, how crazy it is to think, what seems like so natural for us, when we reach out to hold a spoon, or you scratch your nose or something like that. That's these neurons firing a message to tell your brain to do that. All right, so it might seem silly and it seems kind of natural for us, but that's how quick it's firing a message. So think about that. When you scratch your leg or you walk or something, that's your neurons sending that signal to tell your brain to do that, or your brain sending signals to do that. So a transmission between neurons occurs when cells are stimulated past the minimum point and then emit a signal, and neurons either have to typically fire at all or not at all. So there's no like in between. They have to do it all the way, or they can't do it at all. So here's some different parts of the neuron, okay? So if we look at the blue box there, that refers to the dendrite, okay? So those purple things there that kind of look like, I don't know what you would call them, octopus arms, or just like spiny little things pointing out there. But either way, these dendrites are responsible for receiving and sending messages to other neurons. The orange circle there, or half circle, that's called the axon. And these carry messages from the cell body to the axon terminal. So you can see, pointing right there. So it goes boop, 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 right down the neuron there to the axon terminal. Now the myelin sheath, which we kind of talked about sheathing, these just kind of basically protect the neuron. And then the axon terminal at the far end there, these are what release neurotransmitters to stimulate dendrites at the next neuron. So we'll talk more about how they send messages and receive messages. So sending and receiving messages. There's a space between the axon terminal of a neutron and the dendrites of another. These are called synapses, or synapse, and these are gaps that serve as junctions or connections between neurons. And I put a picture down there that kind of shows you, what one end would look like, sending to another neuron. Excuse me. Now, messages that are sent across a synapse by chemicals are known as neurotransmitters. And neurons can be then opened or excited to neurotransmit, or they can be stopped from transmitting. So they're sending messages to tell the other neuron what to do. And there can be very many different types of neurotransmitters as well. Here's some of them here. And I'm going to probably mess up some of their names, so forgive me. Norepinephrine deals with memory and learning, and just some different symptoms that can occur with this. If there's a lack of that, and you combine it with serotonin, it can create depression. Endorphin, or endorphine, I guess you should say, is a neurotransmitter that stops pain. Actoline deals with memory and movement, and if there's a lack of this, there can be Alzheimer's disease and paralysis. And then dopamine deals with learning, emotional arousal, such as being happy and sad or whatever, and movement. An oversupply of this can cause schizophrenia. Don't know why I had trouble saying that. And then a lack of this could cause Parkinson's disease. So again, these are just some of the neurotransmitters that are very common, and how they impact the body. And again, these are transmitted between neurons. So the activity of neurons. The intensity of activity of neurons depends on how many other neurons are acting on it. Okay, so how many other neurons are interacting with it, communicating with it. And neurons are either on or off depending on how many other neurons are exciting or inhibiting it. So, it's just like, figure of like a door. Either the door is open or closed, sometimes. So it's either open, it's either on or off. Destinations of actual nerve impulses are limited by which track they're on, and we're going to talk about those three at the bottom, because neurons have different types as well. There's afferent neurons, or also known as sensory neurons, and these relay messages from the senses to the brain. There's also efferent neurons, which send messages from the brain to glands, like our sweat glands when we're sweating, when we're hot, or in muscles. And then there's interneurons, which are just responsible mainly for processing signals connecting to other neurons. Now, there are also different activities that the body has. The actions that take place in your body can be divided into two different categories: the somatic nervous system, or the SNS, and the autonomic nervous system, or the ANS. Now, both of these are part of the peripheral nervous system. So these are part of the things that, the nerves that reach out to other parts of your body. But they also serve different roles. Voluntary activities such as raising your hand or scratching your head because you have an itch are controlled by the somatic nervous system. So these are things that you do voluntarily, like picking up a pen or a pencil, holding a fork or a knife. Involuntary activities such as your heart beating or breathing or blinking are controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So these are things you don't control, so we don't think about, right? I mean, obviously when we go to sleep at night, our heart, hopefully doesn't stop beating. We don't stop breathing. Our body, or the autonomic nervous system, keeps us breathing, keeps us alive, keeps our heart beating, keeps our lungs breathing. Now, also, the autonomic system can be broken into two parts as well, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system. So the sympathetic and parasympathetic system, they both prepare your body. The sympathetic it's the tongue twister. The sympathetic system prepares your body to deal with strenuous activities or emergencies. So again, maybe this could be something as you're exercising, right? And you're running or you're jogging, or if you're upset about something, maybe you're watching a scary movie, or maybe there's something going on in your personal life that has you very upset or nervous. So this prepares your body to deal with this. For example, some examples of your heart beating faster, or maybe you have your heavy breathing, or things like that. And blood also flows to your muscles that are needed in case of emergency. Okay, so like if you're jogging on a treadmill, your body's going to send more blood to your legs to, keep your body working. The purpose of the parasympathetic system is to conserve energy and to help the body recover from a strenuous activity like running or being upset or something like that. All right, so we'll wrap up here. So the central nervous system, or the CNS, and the peripheral nervous system, the PNS, are key to the body. Neurons are responsible for sending and receiving messages. There's another kind of computer-generated image of what neurons kind of look like. It kind of looks like the clip art as well, but you can kind of see how it kind of looks a little more realistic there. And then the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems help with different types of actions, such as when you're afraid, your heart might beat faster, you breathe heavier, or things like that. All right, so please just try your best on the questions, and I will hopefully talk to you next time.